Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Pasta Jardula here, Fiorella and Jonny Sue. And fam, we have a great guest today.
We have Daryl, better known as Black in the Empire on Twitter. What's up, Daryl?
How you doing?
Great to see you. Thank you so much for coming on with us. We had to get you on. Your tweets were so damn fire, man.
I know I enjoyed it when Fiorella had said that in another one of your streams.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like I was saying before. It's great to have a another person that is right where we are mentally. And, you know, it's not like we've had conversations outside of Twitter really that much. So it's just, it's interesting to see that there's this consciousness that we're all, you know, moving through this process together. And we wanted to bring you in here to discuss a plethora of things. But among them, you know, is this the way we look at what the left today is a very sad state of affairs in America. Basically, the vast majority of them are liberals, and they are pretty much helping perpetuate the system that they say they're against. They're running interference for politicians. They are pushing incremental change versus direct action and actual, you know, people movements that will actually push electoral change. And there's this whole denial and in this whole like hatred for anybody that wants to work across political ideology, which in America could easily change because people are so beaten and downtrodden. And they you know, the working class includes people who may be a Trump supporter, who may have been a Hillary supporter, who may have not ever voted. That's the working class. And so when you talk about these things and when you tweet some of the things you do, I think you understand that concept. So, you know, Jonny, did you want to start with the video? Where did you want to start?
So Johnny left you.
Everything's like crashing right now.
Oh shit.
The computer's like really slow. 1 second.
Okay.
I don't know. Getting the rainbow of death.
Yeah, I can see that rainbow with
Can
That's this question.
all right.
Sure.
So go ahead.
All right, well, please tell us about your journey and how you became aware of the empire and how you end up tweeting so loudly on Twitter. All your tweets that we like when we start sharing them around the house, like you see what Black in the Empire tweeted, it's like fire. So give us a little insight to your journey and how you paid so much attention to the empire itself.
Well, I guess for me it started with again, I guess I'll start it this way. I grew up in the projects in Queens. I won't say I was a bad kid, but I would run into problems. But my mother eventually was going to get married, and she told me something along the lines of, "I don't know where you're going to live because I'm getting married." So I wound up joining the Air Force. I would say it wasn't out of any duty to the United States. I just needed a job, and I figured I could get some money for college, and things would be great. I would say here, when I went in, I was actually kind of still believing in the whole America is, trying to do good around the world and all of the things that we taught. I was, believing, I was Black, so you vote Democrat, all of that kind of stuff. But when I went in, I got a job. It was called technical controller then, but I'm not sure what they call it now. So I wanted with a job where I could see all communications going back and forth that were supposed to be encrypted. And I got a chance to see the empire operate for real,
Yeah.
And, it was quite disturbing to say the least. And I wound up eventually getting out, with all of that in my mind. So that's when I really, I guess, began to understand how America really works.
Yeah.
So when I got out, I wound up going back to my projects to visit some friends. This was during like maybe 94ish, 95 in that area. And that's when I discovered what the Democrats really were. Because when I got back home, my projects was devastated. you know, and I
Yeah.
didn't understand exactly what had happened. You know, I figured the Democrats in office, what's happening here? You know, crack was rampant, everything was going crazy. And I mean, most of the men were in prison. You know, it was ridiculous. So what happens then is, you know, that's when I started figuring out, I guess my awakening comes that maybe the Democrats aren't our friends either. So that's when I discovered, you know, what Clinton and Biden had done. You know, they had devised the devious plan of the crime bill, you know, and I realized that Biden had done the 100-to-1 crack laws. You know, everything was directed at the Black community. And
Yeah.
a lot of people know that, but they don't really understand like how insidious what they did was. Because when I went home, I mean, the people that were in prison, they couldn't come back home because if you had a felony, if you lived in public housing, you can't even come back to your family. They took away food stamps. So the people who got out of prison, they had no way to get anything to eat. So of course, where are they gonna go? Right back to crime, right back to prison. It was really terrible. And, you know, so I kind of got my awakening that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy because, like, I think I had a very similar situation when I would join the Navy and I was in a submarine and I was sleeping on a torpedo rack and I was realizing, like, what a lot of those missiles and what those torpedoes and everything they can do. And it was like, I had that moment where I'm like, holy shit, maybe we aren't like the Captain Americas of the world. Maybe we're kind of pushing this kind of shit. And it was during Clinton when he was in there, so I had a really kind of different look on life when I got out, and that same kind of journey that you had, it kind of happened to me. I got shocked because I was a registered Democrat my whole life, thought they were the good guys, thought those, you know, the Republicans were just racist bad guys. So it's kind of crazy on that whole journey. But yeah, anyways, you want to ask number 2?
Yeah. So you mentioned Biden and Clinton as the figures that showed you the Democrats were trash, but what about any political figures or people in history that you admired and that woke you up?
I admired, you know, Malcolm X, who was admired Martin Luther King, the Panthers, Fred Hampton. I kind of want to try to, you know, I guess my politics is more towards the Malcolm X and the Fred Hampton, you know, style of politics. You know, I believe that really we have to unite. I mean, the left is never, at least not in my lifetime, is never going to grow to the size to where we'll be able to challenge empire. You know, we have to be able to unite with other working class people. I mean, what choice do we have? If you have a different ideology, I mean, if we can find common ground on something, why can't we work on that? You know?
100%. I mean, especially as you know, if you're a person of color that's willing to do that, right? Because it's coming. A lot of the chastising for us is coming from people who are these type of what we were warned about, the white moderate, that are like, no, like you can't talk to that person, and it's like, well, why not? Like, I'm willing to talk to a libertarian and see, hey, we might not agree on, you know, capitalism, but we might agree on, say, war. We might agree on fighting against the 1% or the predator class. And I think in the situation we're in right now, as you can see, you know, with the mandates and just the wealth inequality and the lack of health care, all of this and the corruption within the progressive movement, there's an encroaching fascism, right? The surveillance state is just continuously watching us, is continuously censoring us and censoring voices of truth. So we kind of have to fight that battle now against the empire before we can even argue semantics of ideology and where we stand on the left-right paradigm. So that's, I think, where we kind of agree. I don't know, you know, what, like, because you've seen a lot of the arguments on Twitter, right? For example, when we interviewed Boogaloo Boy, Magnus Pamvidia, we got a lot of pushback when Jimmy Dore interviewed him as well. You know, this whole idea that anybody that deviates from the norm is somehow evil. What do you think about that? like these other militia groups, whether they're Black Panthers, whether they're Black Lives Matter 757 or a Boogaloo Boy. What do you think of all of that?
I don't know. For me, there's a lot of like disingenuous arguments being made. I mean, as far as Magnus goes, I mean, if you can look at Magnus and think that Magnus is some kind of crazed white supremacist, then I really don't know what you're looking at. And as far as the Boogaloo Boys go, I don't know a lot about the Boogaloo Boys. I know that even Magnus admitted that there were white supremacist elements to the Boogaloo Boys. I didn't see that in him, you know. And I even I think I had tweeted something along the lines of like I knew Black Panthers growing up, you know, and some Black Panthers were. But basically, they didn't like white people. They would never have anything to do with white people. Some Black Panthers would work with white people. Just because you're in a group, I mean, you can't make a generalization like that. It's ridiculous. You know? And I wanted to touch base on something too, as far as Fred Hampton goes, because I saw like when Jimmy Dore tried to bring up Fred Hampton as an example as to kind of like what his ideology was, like how he wanted to bring people together. You know, he would get attacks along the lines, and I think maybe Fiorella had said something about, you know, like these people weren't white supremacists. You know, I don't really understand what difference that made. You know, because Fred Hampton, I'll say it like this: I almost feel like by trying to attack Jimmy Dore because he was trying to bring people of different ideologies together, it has nothing to do with even having to be racist or anything like that.
Right.
But I almost feel like they were harming the legacy of Fred Hampton to attack Jimmy Dore.
Yeah.
Because it didn't really matter whether they were racist or not. For me personally, I think that it's ridiculous to say a bunch of white people came up from Appalachia during that time and nobody was a racist.
Yeah,
That's the point we were making, dude. That's the point. Like by today's standards, and is the video gonna play or? Okay, so Johnny has this whole thing because we were watching it last night from the Chicago archives on the YPO, right, meeting with the Black Panthers and the whole interactions that happened. And we wanted to watch it with you because we want to see your reaction, because we were like, I mean, by today's standards, if we were there today, we would have dismissed the YPO, the left today would have dismissed the YPO as racist. They would have called them a fascist just by how where they were from and their emblems and all of that. That was the point we were trying to make. It's like the left today compares nothing to the left of back then. In fact, the left of back then was trying to work across lines and trying to bring people on class issues. Everything went back to class. Not to say that there's obviously not race issues, but a lot of the hatred comes from lack of education, from ignorance. And if you don't talk to people, that's going to stay there, right? And
I just want to also point it out, because Daryl, you pointed out something so important, because a lot of people don't realize this. You talked about the Black Panthers. You knew there were some Black Panthers who didn't like white people, and there were some that were willing to work with white people. And that's, I think, what the YPO was, and it was back then. They would have those people, how to figure out how to work with these people, but staying united on class was important. And even Magnus has said he tries to root out anybody who's racist in his organization. He goes, if somebody said something racist or whatnot, let me know, and they're out of my group. You know what I'm saying? So there is that whole kind of way you have to go through that, and I think that a lot of Black Panthers went through that. I think a lot of YPO members went through that, and that's important to point out today, because at the end of the day, uniting on the class issue is more important, I think, at least.
Well,
or just as important.
I was just gonna say, I mean, I definitely agree that we have to unite on class issues, but I don't want to downplay the fact that we have to also deal with racial inequality.
Absolutely.
And the racial wealth gap as well. Because a lot of times, the reason I don't really label myself, I should just say I don't label myself, because for me personally, when I find myself saying I'm a left or I'm a this or any type of label, it almost takes away some of my independent thought. It becomes hard for me not to try to follow along with what other people are saying. So I just gave up the labels, But I just want to just point out that fact that we definitely want to also deal with the racial wealth gap.
Yeah, yeah. Do you think by fixing the class issue, it will be a big help to the racial issue? Because I think a lot of times when the empire has us, fighting over resources, that can pit people against each other. If we loosen that, that might help us come together.
No. We definitely. The way I look at it is, we're going to have to deal with the class issue first. I don't even want to say first. I mean, that's very important. But the problem I have with a lot of leftists is I see that it's almost like they want to deal with the class issue, and that's it. And now everything is fine now. But once we deal with the class issue, I mean, the racial wealth disparity is still going to be there.
Yeah, 100%. It has to be both. And if you think about imperialism, right, and who is under the boot of the U.S. empire, the global South, doesn't have the same, even from the left, even socialists and communists, when they look at socialism or communism, their ideology, they always point to the Netherlands and Denmark and the Western nations. Well, how did those nations get to that point? By exploiting the resources of the global South, people of color, Native Americans, Africans, and the people in West Asia. And you can see that. You can see that reflected in the world. So I agree. I mean, I think it's definitely the class issue is, in a way, first. In a way, it will help a lot. But I think definitely there is an element, of course, of white supremacy and everything that has gone just because of the way things were done. I mean, I'm a product of imperialism. It's something you can't escape once you understand those things. Did you want to start? Did you want to say anything, Johnny?
Microphone.
Oh, okay.
Ooh.
There we go.
Okay.
Here we go.
So let's watch the video.
Yeah, I got the video here. I just want to say I support reparations, and because of how the CIA and everything, how the CIA has really, gone into the neighborhoods and really introduced this culture. They introduced all the guns and the drugs and everything. Like, there's documented proof of that. And so, okay, so here's the video. This video basically is it's from the 1960s, the late 1960s, around 1968, 1969. Black Panther Bobby Lee went and spoke to the YPO, the Young Patriots organization. They were some white Appalachian from the north side of Chicago, and they were also facing police brutality and economic issues. And he went to their meeting. In this whole clip, we're not going to play the whole thing, but in this whole clip, he goes to the meeting. They start talking. It was they show the first time Bobby Lee was in that meeting. That was their first meeting, and how he was like, I'm there as a helper, as a supporter. You guys tell me where you need me, and then eventually they go to a city council meeting, and then they get a meeting with a community relations officer. So this is that meeting, and everybody talking about their issues with the police there. So.
Yeah. I'm a member of the Young Patriots, and I'm not going to run out a long line of particular harassments that have been thrown up against people, but just use one to clear up a point you made, which is probably the strongest point we've been talking about tonight. And that is, I've been in the house of Southern white people, and I've heard policemen, pardon me ladies, throw them up against the wall and say, you fucking hillbillies, what you got on you, and this kind of thing. And all I want to say is, when you talk about tolerance, we're not tolerating this. We're angry. 100 years ago, this flag, which I wear on my cap, represents the Confederate States of America. We was beat down. And we beat down people for 100 years. And we know what it's like to beat down people. And we beat down people hard. We all getting ourselves together. We're angry about it, because we're all beaten down today. And we're going to be out on the streets, and we'll be helping you if you want our help. And it's not the matter we communists, we this or that and the other. We're just folks who are trying to get things straight in our community. Is that clear
Harold.
Yes.
Your thoughts on what you saw right there?
Oh well, I actually couldn't see it, but but I heard it. I mean, that's exactly what we need. I'd actually seen that whole clip before. We got to have solidarity amongst everybody. The goal of empire is to keep people divided.
Mm-hmm.
They want to keep people divided. Every issue, every event is an opportunity for them to have us at each other's throats. Whether it's the pandemic, whether it was Trump, I mean everything is an opportunity for them. And if we get lost fighting amongst each other, instead of trying to find, like I said earlier, trying to find at least an area where we agree. If we all agree that we need to end these wars, then if it's a libertarian, if it's somebody on the right that's tired of these wars, then we should come together and we should do that.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I really resonated, and I know you didn't get to see it this time, but the gentleman speaking had a Confederate flag emblem on his hat, and he signaled to that, and he said, this is a representative symbol of the Confederacy, and he's still wearing it, and so they know what the Confederacy was. And he talks about 100 years ago we beat people, and now we're being beaten. So it's almost like my whole thing when we were talking about Fred Hampton and the Rainbow Coalition was these people. They didn't just automatically stop being racist. I mean, they come from a racist place, from the United States. They come from the Confederacy. And he's talking about this, and he's still wearing the emblem. So, no, I'm not going to buy that none of these people were racist, but that's beside the point. The point is he's talking about we're angry now because we're being beaten too, and we got to come together. And that is to me, it's so telling, because when I'm comparing it to today, and I'm looking at these people and the way they were speaking and the way they were talking and their emblems, the left would have never wanted to unite with them today. And so what I feel is us right now, we are trying to continue doing in some form or another what was attempted back then. And that is why it was stopped, because a working class coalition across the board is the biggest threat to the status quo. And those people that are impeding this from happening, that are telling us that we're trying to be red-brown, that we're racist, that we're all this stuff, those people are in the way of this happening. We need to see past them, and we need to come together as a people to continue this fight, because really very little has changed in terms of power.
I wanted to go back to the Confederate flag, because the argument I was hearing, like, for me, there's been a lot of whitewashing of history to try to make a lot of our black not civil rights, but our black liberationist heroes more palatable to white America, and like they did with Malcolm X, like they did with Martin Luther King, and I think also with Fred Hampton. Like when we first started, when I was talking about Fred Hampton and how I feel like in a way they're disrespecting his legacy to try to keep this division going, it didn't really matter to me. They try to use the Confederate flag. They said that the Confederate flag wasn't being used because they were racist. It was being used because they wanted to recruit other people. So, well, who are they trying to recruit with the Confederate flag? So a lot of these things don't make any sense. And when we get to the point, I guess what it comes down to is whether or not they were racist or not really has nothing to do with the argument. The argument, first of all, is Fred Hampton and the Panthers at that point, they didn't know, if you saw like earlier in that clip, they didn't know what they were walking into. They see a bunch of white guys with Confederate flags, but they went anyway. That's the point. They wanted to try to unite anyway. So these people that are trying to make these like disingenuous arguments about whether they were racist, to me, that's all smoke. It doesn't even matter.
Yeah.
The point is he was willing to meet with them anyway, and he had no idea, I should say his sergeant, that when it had no idea of what they were going into. They were willing to unite with these people and try to find a way to fight for what they needed anyway.
Yeah. Well, let's kind of convert that to today's time, right? All right, we talked about like how a lot of people are saying like the YPO weren't racist. Like they want to make sure that, you know, a lot of these leftist bourgeois people, because they were like, oh, they would never work with racists and we should never work with racists and stuff. But I always make this point, whatnot, and it's hard making it as a white person because sometimes I can be looked at as being selfish, and I say, well, there's a big difference between a racist in power and a racist without power. Like, I think people are always so concerned with that guy who's sitting on the porch in the South with a MAGA hat on that will use the N-word, which is awful and is bad, and we have to walk and chew gum at the same time and try to get these people to understand that they're living a nightmare and they're very, very wrong. But isn't it a far cry from a person like Kamala Harris, who will come with roses and petals and say everything's so nice, but then will lock up black people at a rate of 12-1 for marijuana in California? Isn't there a difference between the two? And am I wrong for saying that I don't get as angry at that stupid fucking racist person who's taught to be racist as opposed to the racist in power that doesn't show their true colors?
Well, I mean, for me, I don't go to bed at night worrying about whether or not some Karen in Walmart is yelling the N-word. I mean, that doesn't really have any effect on me. Yeah. I mean, if they were doing it to my face, it might be different. And I don't really like the fact that it's happening. These people, to me, I almost feel sorry for them. Mm-hmm. But the real threat is not them. You know, I don't go to bed worrying about whether or not the Boogaloo Boys or the Boogaloo Boys took no food off my table. You know, the Boogaloo Boys they're not destroying my neighborhoods. You know, it's the people in DC that are destroying my neighborhoods. And I really feel, I don't even know how to say this. I don't want to come off like I think that these racist people are okay, you know, but that doesn't mean that people cannot change. When I was in the military, I'll give you an example. Do you know how many racist people we had to deal with in the military? You know, and a lot of those people became my friends. Yeah, one of those people is one of my best friends today. You know, and so to say that people can't change or you can't even converse with people because you feel a certain way about them. When I grew up, I'll be honest, we had an ideology. We had something that we call 5%ers. 5%ers believe all white people were the devil. And, you know, and I kind of grew up in that until I actually met some white people and I realized that that's not true. But if the people never talk to each other, then how is anything going to ever change? Yeah. I remember I was in the submarine simulator, and it was one where leaks are sprung, and you got to repair the leaks. And I remember seeing one of the most racist cats that we had working with a man of color in there. And when they came out of that simulation, they were best friends because they realized that they were in the same boat at that particular, literally in the same boat. Like, it doesn't make a difference, black, white, brown, yellow. You're in the same boat. You got to work together. So I've had those same experiences in the military that you did, and it's great to see that stuff because I believe a lot of those people can be convinced, can go the other way. They were taught to be racist. We can unteach them and we can show them that they're wrong. And they're a lot easier to convert than actually the people upstairs who are pulling the strings to make us, like you said, be at each other's throats.
Yeah, that's like empire education. You know, we talk about it, about how the education system here is purposely, systematically divisive. It's to divide the people. They want to keep dividing the people. That's the goal of the empire, to divide us so we don't unite and fucking ask for the shit that we wanted to. And that's what Fred Hampton talked about. He said we're going to fight racism not with racism, but we're going to fight it with solidarity. He said that, and I'm going to play this clip real quick of when he said that.
We're not a racist organization because we understand that racism is an excuse used for capitalism, and we know that racism is it's a byproduct of capitalism.
If we don't hate the motherfucking white people, we hate the oppressor, whether he be white, black, brown, or yellow.
We're going to fight racism, not with racism, but we're going to fight with solidarity. We said we're not going to fight capitalism with black capitalism, but we're going to fight it with socialism. Everything would be all right if everything was put back in the hands of the people, and we're going to have to put it back in the hands of the people. And these people in this class have divided themselves. They say, I'm black and I hate white people. I'm white and I hate black people. I'm Latin American and I hate hillbillies. I'm hillbilly and I hate Indians. So we fighting amongst each other. Nothing's more important than stopping fascism because fascism will stop us all. That's the people's thing. Socialism is the people. You're afraid of yourself. If you're afraid of socialism, you're afraid of yourself.
Damn.
Right. So just kind of like, Fred Hampton saw it. He saw it. How the empire was, trying to divide people. So, thoughts on that, Fee?
Yeah, I just wanted to point out something that, has been pointed out by people like Hampton, Malcolm X, and MLK is the people who are like the moderates, right? The moderates, but also the black imperialists, Barack Obama, Kamala Harris. Those people, I think, have served so much damage to any sort of working class revolution with the use of identity politics. And being Latina, especially Johnny, here when you came to California, the vast majority of Latino people in politics in California are all straight up neoliberals. And what they do is they tokenize the Latin community based on immigration, right? They say you got to vote for the Democrat because, they're being racist against immigrants. They want to build a wall, all this stuff. Mm-hmm. And when you it's very hard to find people that are Latino involved in politics that aren't neoliberals. And that, to me, I wanted to hear your thoughts on that, because to me, I'm sick and tired of being tokenized and used as this cushion for the Democratic Party to gain votes, and then they don't do shit for that community at all, and that community is largely working class, because when they don't do any economics for anybody, then obviously all the marginalized communities suffer, and that's the hypocrisy. And I hate them more than I hate the Republicans, because I know where I stand with the Republicans. I know where they're at. But with the Democrats, and especially the Squad and these progressives, they use this and they pat themselves on the back. AOC is the Latina representative for the faux left, the synthetic left, these progressives, and she does these photo ops where she cries about Trump and then the border and the detention camps, but we haven't heard her say shit about what's going on now. So I just wanted to get your thoughts on that and those people, because to me, those people make me angrier than the Republicans, because they're using and manipulating us through emotions to get votes and political capital.
I know. I mean, I guess I'll speak on as far as the black community goes.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't say how frustrating it is to watch the Democratic Party play us. I mean, it's been 50 years now. It's been more than 50 years. We get things like Juneteenth. As I said, nobody asked for Juneteenth. We asked for some money for our community. It's all game playing. It's all symbolism.
What about the new hip hop bill? Jamal Bauman, hip hop is now part of the culture. Resolution. It's in there.
Oh yeah, I saw that. And it's ridiculous. As far as the Squad goes, I don't even know where to begin. I mean, people tell me on my Twitter that these people are my allies. I said, these people just coordinated their votes to give more money to police. How are these people my allies? We went from defund the police to let's see who can vote present so Nancy Pelosi could pass money and give more money to the police. I mean, these people are not my allies. I don't know if they're your allies, but where I come from, we're trying to do something about the police, not give them more money. And I mean, it even goes back to from the very beginning with the Squad. Where were they for Tara Reade? I mean, it's just all about Democrats. They're falling in line with the Democrats. They're going to continue to fall in line with the Democrats, and that's just the way it is. A lot of this stuff is performative. Everybody's everybody's tired of the tweets. We're waiting for some action, and we're not going to get it.
Johnny, you got something? You want me to ask? Well, I'm going to ask a question right now too as well. Let's talk about like you talked about Malcolm, right? And we had a social justice warrior friend that used to come over and used to play Malcolm's early stuff, right? The whole black nationalist speech and stuff. Whereas if I love to play his post-Mecca speeches, you know what I'm saying? When he comes back and he talks about, I don't care who I have to work with, but whoever wants to go after these people in power who have done so wrong, that's who I'll work with. And it shows that he'll work with anybody. What are your thoughts about a lot of people? I mean, the social justice warriors often feel like if we fix racism, everything else will fall into place. We talked about this earlier. Is it possible if we do go about it that way? Let's look at their vision, right? If we do fix that way, what will happen to the other stuff? What will happen as far as fixing empire and also the class issues and stuff? Is it possible that if we fix racism first, everything else will fall into play?
Well, I mean, I don't even know where to start with that, because I don't know if it's possible to fix racism in America. I mean, America is built on racism.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not even really my focus. I mean, when I talk about reparations and things of that nature, my focus is that there's a debt owed to Black Americans that the United States government has spent the last few centuries trying to find a way not to pay.
Yeah.
And as far as the Black community goes, we're not going to be made whole. As much I'm for everything with the universal programs. Everybody is hurt. You know what I'm saying? But for us to be whole, even with the universal programs, like I said, that's not going to, even if there's things that are directed more towards, or when you say things like, well, this will disproportionately help the Black community, that's not going to end the racial wealth gap. The only thing that's going to end the racial wealth gap is reparations. But that doesn't mean that I'm not completely in the battle, in the struggle, in the class struggle. They don't have to be separate things, you know. And I feel like, I mean, a lot of arguments come where some people just want to say, well, no, it's just a class war. I'm not. It is a class war. There's going to always be a class war. But I just don't like the fact that it almost feels like they want Black people to step aside and forget about what happened, you know, so we could just join the class war. And then once we get everything that we want, that's the end. You know, that's not the end for me, you know. You know, but it still comes down to the point. We have a group of people who are claiming to be leftists that are helping the empire keep everybody divided.
Mm-hmm.
They're preaching Marxism. They're preaching, McCarthyism. They're preaching censorship. I mean, these people are not leftists by any stretch of the imagination. There's no battle going on between the left. After Bernie was finished, or finished himself, I should say, I mean, that's where the divide came. That's where the divide first started to show itself, because there were people who still wanted to stay in the Bernie wing, try to convince us that somehow we were going to defeat the oligarchy by using their system. Well, we learned that that's not going to work, right? We're going to have to get out in the streets. We're going to have to do a lot of things, and we can't do it with everybody fighting against each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's the purpose of the squad, is to continue that whole dynamic by, you know, I call it intersectional fascism, intersectional imperialism. You have, you know, every color under the rainbow with the squad, but what are they being weaponized for? To divide us, to tell us that we can only fight for, you know, attainable projects. You know, like Medicare for all, no, that's not attainable right now. Oh, $15 minimum wage, it was attainable, but not anymore. Like, it's all these things that they're telling you can't do.
It's never going to be the right time.
Right.
That's what I'm trying to tell people.
Yeah.
The right time is never. If we're in a pandemic where hundreds of thousands of people have died, millions of people have lost their health care, if that's not the right time, when is the right time?
Never.
You know, the things that they're saying are ridiculous. And I can't really trust, how can I trust somebody who's a squad member that's going to fight for me and is going to fight for the working class? And look at what's happening with them. We got Ilhan Omar, Biden is bombing Somalia. We got Rashida Tlaib. They're still giving more money to Israel. And if I can't expect to see these people every day fighting against that, what makes me think they're going to fight for me?
Right.
So what do we do, Daryl? What do we do to get this done? What's the first step out there where we can be all inclusive in our journeys to fight? You know what I'm saying? All these forces against us, where we just don't make it all about class. We don't make it all about race or gender or anything. How do we bring this shit together to get people in the streets together to fight against the common enemy that is putting us all down?
Well, I mean, that's the question.
Well, that's why we had you on. We saw your tweets.
Yeah. I mean, we've, in a way, right now, I think we have too much focus on the people that we know are fighting against us, the people that are supposed to be our allies, that we know are fighting against us. And I think, in a way, we have to if they're saying something ridiculous that's harmful, we have to fight back against that, because we can't let that stay in the air. And people believe that these things are true. And with places like TYT, it's difficult to ignore them because they have supposedly 5 million subscribers. If they're preaching some of these dangerous things, this imperialist left crap, that's a problem. But I think that we have to, in a way, sometimes we just have to try to focus more on what we're building. We know that they're going to try to tear down what we're building. They're going to try to cause chaos and confusion, because that's their job. So we really got to, I think, start focusing more on what it is we're trying to build. Don't get into fights with people trying to say you can't talk to this person, you can't talk to that person. We just have to continue to do what it is that we're doing.
Yeah.
And I feel like
I'm hoping that eventually we'll be able to reach enough people, or maybe if people see the truth, then maybe we can even bring some of the people that have been brainwashed by other forces along.
Yeah. Johnny?
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people are like just stuck in the Twitterverse, where especially where all these, neoliberals and the moderates are. The milquetoast moderates liberals are, right? So I feel like, I've been seeing calls on Twitter actually from real leftists saying, we need to start building mutual aid, and we need to start doing it's not charity, it's building communities, Right. It's a dual thing, we both benefit from that. Exactly. So I'm seeing more calls for that. I need to know where it's happening. People, we gotta see where it's happening. I want to cover it. I want to boost it. You know what I'm saying? Because I think that's the way. We gotta build a mutual aid and build communities of creativity, communities where people can get help for medical issues if they want, communities where there's food available for them, and especially now when it looks like the economy is about to fall or collapse. I don't know what's going to happen. I think they're going to shut down here soon. Any thoughts on that, Daryl?
Oh yeah. Well, I guess what I wanted to kind of give a shout out to when you talked about the mutual aid. I mean, Fred Hampton left. I mean, I got a lot of admiration for the things that they're doing out there. They're out there in the streets and they're really helping people.
Yeah.
I'm getting really worried with this eviction moratorium that's been delayed for some. Being homeless, I was homeless for quite a few years. I tell people I know what it's like to wake up, in the street and be home. It's just not a good feel. And I think I was tweeted about this also, because when evictions start, that's not the end. It's not just that you don't have a home. All kinds of things can happen. I've seen people, because they were evicted, have their children taken away from them because the state says, well, you're an unfit parent. Once the evictions happen, you're stuck with that. Even if you can get yourself back on your feet, how are you going to get a place to live? Because now you got an eviction on your record. it's more than even just getting kicked out into the street. It goes on for years for a lot of people. And we really, I was also tweeting about, after we know what happened with Cory Bushner and AOC going down there and getting supposedly solving the problem with kicking it down the road for 60 days. And I was tweeting, I said, now let's see, now you got 60 days. You can't tell us you just found out. You got 60 days. What are you organizing? Where are you? I haven't seen anything about about trying to get people down to Washington, D.C. to try to get this stopped. We don't need a moratorium. We need to be able to keep people in their homes.
Yeah.
Right.
We need to cancel the rent, you know. And I think it's also amazing, too, you pointed out something earlier about, like, the way the groups say you can't talk to that person. Those are the people that you should go talk to. You know what I'm saying? The people they're saying, oh, you can't talk to that person because that person's lost his way. We got to cancel that person. No, that's the person I'm going to go talk to and convince them of a different way, or at least show them. And if not, try to learn something from where they're coming from so we can really get good solutions to fix these problems and make us come together. What are your thoughts about some of these protests out in the street and then the counter-protest? Like, you got the anti-mask protest, and you got people coming out counter-protesting them, arguing left and right. What are your thoughts when you see that?
Like I said earlier, for me, this is they just found another way to keep people at their throats. That's all it is for me. Like I said before, any event, whether it's January 6th, whether it's Trump, whether it's masks or vaccines, anything they can do to try to drive wedges in between people, they're going to do it.
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly what they're doing now with the vaccine mandates and stuff like that, right? That's like, oh, you're this or you're that. You're like more and more divisive tactics. And by the way, the rules don't apply to the 1%. They get to
the rules don't apply to them. Yeah.
That's what I think we have to point out, right? Keep pointing that out.
I had even mentioned before, because of course, when they want to talk about the anti-vax, what they really want to do is to go after the Trump supporters, right?
Right.
But I said earlier that I can't wait to see what they're going to do when they find out how many black people are not going to take that vaccine.
Yeah.
Right.
So I was really interested in that. I said, what are you going to call the black people who won't take the vaccine?
Right.
Because since everybody is virtue signaling and everything like that, I want to see how you're going to handle that. And of course, the data comes out that a lot of black people aren't going to take the vaccine, which I knew.
Yeah. Well, why would they trust the government that's been using them as experiments before? We talk about Tuskegee, what I'm saying? There's a new movie out. It's called Medical Racism, and it's on Robert Kennedy Jr.'s page and stuff. And a lot of people should go watch that, and what are you going to do? I'm curious, too, as well, because there are a lot of people of color out there who, I'm a white guy and I don't want to take the vaccine. I don't trust, but what they've done to black people historically when it comes to medical racism, man, it's crazy. So I am interested to see what comes of this when they see a lot of people of color not taking the vaccine. So.
Yeah.
So that's why we think about solutions like a Medicare for all system is a good solution. I was thinking UBI, but
the problem with UBI under this current system is they're going to weaponize
under a capitalist system, right?
Yeah, that's the issue with UBI under capitalism.
That's the whole fact that the real issue is capitalism.
Yeah,
that's the problem.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And this oligarchy too. I mean, you had the image of the Black Panthers having free breakfast and things like that. I mean, I think that's where it has to start. And I think going back to the mutual aid thing, that's where I see people doing it. When I mention mutual aid now, it's like, it's not to replace, a nationalized healthcare system. It's not to replace what the government could do. It's to show them that if you're not going to do it, the people will do it. And like, what are you going to do then in terms of that? Because if the people become self-sufficient and you pretty much show that the government is useless, that's a problem for them. That's why they make it illegal for you to collect rainwater. That's why they make certain things illegal for you to like have, save your own money by like inventing whatever device to save electricity. That's why, because they want you dependent on what they can give you. But if you organize and you work with what you have, because there are so many more of us than there are of them, then that becomes a threat to them. It helps us, but it becomes a threat. I saw a microcosm of that here when it was the Echo Park community that was raising funds through mutual aid and building like a kitchen, a garden, and a community of unhoused people in the park. And because they got done asking the city for help because there's a giant wait list, or they're not being fair with them. They're trying to keep them imprisoned, giving them, no autonomy over their lives. And so they did that. And what did the city do? They came in, they wiped out the whole thing. They shut off their water, shut off the electricity, removed all those tents, and pretty much expelled those people, because it's not even about getting government help. It's about that even if you want to help yourself, they want to stop you from that because they want compliance. And that, I think, is the other big battle we're fighting. It's not just, we're not fighting income inequality, we're fighting racism, but we're also fighting this authoritarianism that we have, this fascism it's a different type of fascism. It's not just, the KKK member with a hood. It's literally a man in a suit. Mm-hmm. It's literally the surveillance state on your computer, listening on your phone, censoring videos like this. That's the fascism we're fighting.
Yeah, I never got why it's so hard to understand that if you are calling for the censorship of somebody that you don't like, if you're on the right, that if you're on the left, or if you're a black person, you don't understand that the censorship is really meant for you.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, you're the ones that they really want to shut down. Anybody who's really challenging the system of capitalism, that's who they really want to shut down. So I just never understood how that can't seep through. I used to say, listen, I'm not for fighting censorship because I'm a wonderful person. I'm for fighting censorship because I'm selfish, because I want to be able to say what I want to say.
Yeah. Well, Daryl, I think this was a great show today. I thank you so much for coming on. I think we should have you on more often. Definitely. This was fun. Couple quick questions. Yankees or Mets?
Yankees.
What? You're from Queens.
Yankees, always Yankees.
Oh.
I was born in Brooklyn, raised in Queens, but always been a Yankee fan. Yankees, Knicks, and Giants.
Giants? You're from Queens, man. You're supposed to be Mets and Jets with me. At least we got the Knicks together.
So you must be a Long Islander.
I'm an Islander fan, baby. I'm from Amityville, so yeah, of course, that definitely and stuff. Well, let me ask you another question. Most underrated hip-hop group or person of all time?
Oh, wow.
Put you on the spot.
Well, I'm going to say somebody you probably never heard of. His name is Jeru the Damager.
I know damn well you're playing yourself with all that rah, 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 rah. Believe you me, I think he is one of the most underrated. For me, it's De La Soul. I think De La Soul is one of the most.
A lot too.
Yeah. Remember, I'm 48, so I was around for the birth of hip hop with you. Who's the most overrated? Kind of like in pop music or whatever. Dave Matthews Band, the most overrated band. You know what I'm saying? Who's the most overrated when it comes to hip hop?
Oh wow. Most overrated. I don't even know, because some of these people I just don't even consider real rappers. But I could say, I don't know. Is Hammer considered a real rapper?
Well, you can say he's overrated. He did blow up crazy and stuff. I like the Hammer story, the way he sold albums out the back of his trunk and whatnot. Started small, made it big.
That was a great story.
Yeah. But yeah,
he was a great entertainer. He was a great entertainer, though.
Yeah, I thought that Will Smith was one of the most overrated and stuff, personally. But he did have Summertime. That was one of the best songs.
He had a couple of songs that I liked. He was kind of corny.
He was. Parents just don't understand.
I have a question, though. I have a feeling I'm going to know your answer based on where you are. Biggie or Tupac?
Oh, Biggie.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I thought.
I've been telling you guys this for a long time, right? Biggie is the shit. Daryl, thank you so much. Come on again with us. We have a lot more conversations like this. I really learned a lot today, knowing that we gotta walk and chew gum at the same time. You know, I think a lot of times we see, you know, because we've been involved with the activists and we see where they're pushing from, they never pay attention to the class warfare. But you even said there's a lot of people who pay attention too much to the class and don't pay attention to the other side. We need to pay attention to both and make this happen. Yeah.
Thank you, Daryl. We appreciate you coming on.
All right, thanks. It was great talking to you guys.
Check him out, Black in the Empire. Got
On
a great
Twitter.
his Twitter is fire.
Twitter.
He's got a YouTube show coming soon.
You got a YouTube show coming soon?
Yeah, I'm going to be starting a YouTube show soon. I've been procrastinating, but it's coming soon.
Oh,
you need
great.
one. You need one. You got to get your voice out there. It's amazing. Your tweets are fire. They really are.
Thank you so much, and good luck with the YouTube show. Let us know when, so we'll put it on the show.
And go
Okay,
Mets.
Thanks a lot. Go Yankees.
Yankees.
Yeah, go Yankees.
Ah,
I mean,
damn.
come on, fam. The Yankees.
the Yankees, the Yankees, the Yankees.